Hi everyone, how are you? So this is a live that I'm doing after a while. So there was a bit of a delay in um, the series of live I've been doing. So apologies for that. How are you? Hope all is well with you this new year. Now, the topic for today is the second term of Trump, and he took oath on January 20th indoors. And since then, he has been on a spree of making some decisions that are going to affect everyone involved, not just in the US, but also around the world. So let's just review what is happening. We all know, how controversial Trump has been, but he made some commitments and he made some promises when he was on the campaign trail, and we have to see whether he has upheld his promises. So let's get started. So the first thing I would talk about is the Greenland, Mexico, and Canada issue, because these are right. Basically, they are neighbors for the US apart from Greenland. So he's made noises about Canada and Mexico borders. It's not just about um, illegal immigrants coming from these borders, but also about an economic union or these countries being just uh, appendages of the US. Now, that is an important point because he had a very tense call with the Denmark Prime Minister, where he demanded, allegedly, that Greenland be given to him or to the US, basically. Now, this is a very interesting, like, he didn't promise this on the campaign trail. This is a foreign policy strategic move. And we'll discover as we talk about it, as in, what is happening. Is it just a blip, or is there a thought out process? Is this about acquiring land which is not yours? Is it imperialism, or is it something else? So we ought to look at Greenland, Mexico, and Canada together and not separately. Remember, just before Trudeau was ousted, there was a lot of uh, noises that Trudeau made, and the Trump administration or Trump himself was talking about Canada being the 51st state, and there was news reporting in the Canadian media that how unfair is that, and so on. So there is a sense that there is a certain policy around this. We'll come back to this. The other thing that has happened is the Ukraine Russia war and the Iran Hamas war. And immediately after he's come to power, there is a deal that Israel and Hamas have made. There have been some exchange of prisoners, but whether it will hold or not, it's difficult to say at this point. But it has happened right after he's taken power. Plus, he has also suspended some aid for Ukraine, and that is going to have long-term, very, very uh, consequential uh, things on the battlefield between these two people. There is this Raghav. Hi, Raghav. If you have a question or if you want to contribute, please type your question here, and we can take that as I speak. So basically, the second point, apart from that Monroe Doctrine that I talked about, is the Ukraine, Russia, and the Israel Hamas war. Now, remember, uh, Trump is a businessman. He doesn't want to get into wars. That's very clear to everyone. So, him stamping down all conflicts around the world, especially these two, is expected, and that's what has happened. Of course, Ukraine is not resolved. I think it'll take a bit of time, perhaps all of 2025 to reach that deal, but it'll happen. And Ukraine will definitely have to part with some territory to the Russians. Now, the other thing he's done is about immigration. And in immigration, he has suspended entry of anyone engaged in invasion of the US at the US Mexico border under Provision 212F of the Immigration and Nationality Act. Now, we all know that. politics around the world is really about outsiders and insiders, and outsiders are immigrants, most of the time illegal, in countries like the US, Europe, and India, and many others. So this is a major thing. Now remember, what Biden administration was really doing was getting a lot of undocumented illegals into the country. That would have dampened down the labor cost. The US, especially under Trump, is wanting to be like a global manufacturing hub. Now they need cheap labor for that. So I wonder if there will be a implication of this on the labor market, because the moment you start sending a lot of people back, there's going to be some backlash from the communities, and the business community will also not be able to sustain without cheap labor, especially in manufacturing. If you're doing services, it's you need a slightly higher skilled labor, but for manufacturing you need semi skilled labor. So this is an important thing. There is another thing he's done, and that's he's ordered the expansion of the expedited removal, which allows the US to deport someone without a court hearing to the maximum permitted under the federal law. So there is a lot of uh, moves that he's made. From an Indian perspective, I think Jay Shankar, when he met Marco Rubio, he was asked whether he'll take back illegal Indians, and he said yes, if they provide some paperwork, if that they're Indians, they will be taken back. And there are, I think, 18 to 20,000 of such undocumented Indians in the US who are in queue for being deported. So this is going to be very, very interesting. What he does. Another issue that happened just as he was taking oath was that Vivek Ramaswamy, the one who stood for presidential elections, but he lost out to Trump and is supposed to be very close to Trump, has been shunted out of DOJE, which is the Department of Government Efficiency run by Elon Musk. He's reportedly now planning to go for a governor run in Ohio, which will happen in 26. So he has to announce very soon, maybe in March, April. I do think, for whatever reason, I don't think Vivek enjoys Trump's trust the way, say, Elon Musk does, because Elon Musk doesn't have any political ambitions that we know about, and therefore, uh, it's a very different feel. Now, there's a question: can one country actually buy another country, and how does that process happen? Remember, Pakistan had gifted Saksham Valley to the Chinese, but buying countries used to happen earlier. It's not going to happen now. But what can happen is the US can strike a deal with Denmark for co-ownership, or if the US wants to deploy its forces, or it wants to dig for oil or whatever, because they will get a beachhead into the Arctic Ocean and the Arctic Circle, which is north of Russia. So I think there is no process for buying a country, but you can buy the leadership, you can buy their businesses, you can take other punitive actions which will force the political party there to kind of uh, bend down over with Trump. I don't know what you think, but this is what I think. So there's no process in international law. By the way, the moment you recognize a country as a sovereign country, you cannot go back. Just like India recognized Tibet, uh, I think very bad decision. So that decision cannot be taken back. So I wonder what Trump will do. I think the Danes will have to come to the negotiating table, because Trump has gone ballistic on this one. And my sense is that as the US is losing ground in Asia and Europe, they're trying to consolidate, land assets, if you may, in South America, Central America, and Greenland is kind of, northeast of the US. So that's what I think. Let me know if that's what you also think. But this is what they've done. Then there's a economic play that he's done, which is around production. Which he oil production, which he calls liquid gold. Now, remember, what will happen is if oil output from the US increases, the prices of the crude oil from the Middle East will reduce. Now, that's a good thing for India, but not a very good thing for Saudi Arabia or even Russia. Though Russia, anyways, has is under sanctions. So, what will happen is that you will have sustained low prices for a while if US actually carries this out. This is not as easy as it appears, because you can't just open a oil well and then stop it 2 years later, because once you stop taking oil from a oil well, then it cannot be opened up ever, almost ever. It's a very difficult thing to do technically. So he has shown that he's willing to play the game. Now there is a US dollar play as well. In the US dollar play, he made a statement about warning BRICS that if you went and dump the dollar, he's going to take some action. So obviously, the US dollar is under pressure. There is a lot of geopolitics around dollar. In fact, all of geopolitics around right now is related to the US dollar. So, there is a lot of nervous people around in the Middle East because they don't want the US to, pump oil into the market, because that's going to have a problem. That's going to cause them an economic loss. For India, it's a win. For even China, it's a win. So I don't think the Americans will go all the way. They will produce some oil, but not in the quantities that will completely flood the market. Um, but you never know with the Trump administration. And one thing that some people have commented is that the first week of Trump has demonstrated a level of planning and efficiency that is a real contrast with this first term. And if you can see in the on the first day, he signed many executive orders. That's a very smart thing to do, because there were some assassination attempts on him. He knows his honeymoon is not going to last more than a year, and within the first month, there can be war zones, there can be a outbreak of something else, or many things can go wrong. So what Trump has done is he's come in and he's quickly passed all of these orders, and some of them were expected. For instance, the pardon of 1,500 people who were supposedly connected with the January 6th Capitol attack, which happened just 2 weeks before Biden took oath. This was in 2021. So that's happening. Then there is another thing which he passed, was the birthright citizenship. He took it back, so that also uh, probably will go to the courts and be struck down. But he's thrown a distraction to the leftists. So what he's doing is he knows that this will be probably struck down in the courts, but this will deploy a lot of left wing politics or politicians and all of these people into getting this stuck down. And if that striking down happens a year or 2 years later, he can deny a lot of people who were wanting to, get this birth certificate. So a lot of people, what they do is they come in when they're pregnant. The woman is pregnant and then she gives birth in the US, and the child is immediately a certified US citizen. So there is no process for that. So I think it's a very interesting game. He's made some huge changes in personnel, and Donald Lu, the guy who helped topple the Bangladeshi government, he was very close to the establishment when it came to making some changes. Uh, Regime changes across the world. And this guy has really troubled India, especially on the Bangladesh side, because that change or whatever toppling of Sheikh Hasina was a major problem for India. Because we were handling Pakistan on the west, we were handling China on the north. Now you've got Bangladesh on the east. So that this news is good for India, It's good for a lot of regimes around the world. I wonder who will replace him and so on. There is interesting news that US aid has been suspended for what, 85 days, 3 months. Now, US aid is a front organization and whatever. It's an institution that does a lot of foreign policy work by, helping some people who are downtrodden and all that. Or they run a lot of charities or other NGOs and so on. So, by suspending this aid, lot of people who were benefiting from the US largesse, who could be informers, who could be overground workers, who could be helping the US in many foreign locations, the CIA has been uh, given a death blow by this 85-day rule, because in 3 months, so imagine for 3 months, US cannot pay, US diplomats and so on, these agencies cannot make any payment in lieu of foreign aid. Now, a lot of this foreign aid is not aid; it is just another way of pursuing foreign policy interest or your foreign policy uh, through other means. So this suspension is a big, big, big deal, and I think this will go a long, long way in changing um, lot of the actions that US has taken across the world. Now, let's second. Let me reply here. So, that coming back to that question that Raghav Hinganikar has asked about buying another country. Now that I've given you the headlines, so it's a very, very difficult uh, play that Trump is making. But I remember watching a series, I think some Danish series, which is all around this Greenland issue. So Greenland is a major political issue in Denmark, but Denmark is a very small player. So, being a very small player, it doesn't have too much of leverage with the US, but it's part of the European Union and EU, and therefore it'll not be that easy for Trump to just steamroll the Danes. Uh, Anyhow, I think these are the main actions that Trump has taken around immigration, about foreign aid, about making personnel changes in various departments. A lot of people have been fired, a lot of people have been shunted out of departments that they were overseeing for a long, long time. And therefore, there's a lot of instability in the bureaucracy right now, and which is to Trump's advantage because he can use it to, push his agenda. Now, I think all in all, this is good news for most foreign countries, including India, because a lot of the US intervention, whether through NGOs, agencies, through US aid, through people like Donald Lu, was very difficult to handle. But this is a completely new deal. So, what America wants is they want to shift from being a US dollar reserve, which by definition they have to have a lot of imports. If you're going to put tariffs, now it means that you cannot have the dollar as a reserve currency because you will not have enough people buying the dollar. Why? Because US imports would fall. If there are more tariffs, then the imports become expensive, and therefore there will not be enough people to, who would be willing to buy US dollars. Already, a lot of countries are not buying US treasuries, and the US is pissed about that. So, I think this is going to be a major, major issue. Um, so, this is what I think has happened in the first week of Trump's presidency. I think it's a great start from his own perspective, his party's perspective, and let's see what all he can pass in the interim months and the coming months and years. But his honeymoon period, I think, will be just restricted to 2025. In 2026, you're going to have midterm elections. It'll be tough road ahead for him. Good thing for Trump is that he knows it's his last term. he is not going to have a third term. So he doesn't have to worry about having another power center in the Republican Party, though he will want he himself to decide, who will be his successor. I don't think JD Vance carries that kind of weight. I don't think Vivek Ramaswamy carries enough trust from Trump or experience. Elon Musk doesn't seem to be interested. Coming to Elon Musk, I must mention that Elon Musk has made some very interesting comments about the UK, and there were a lot of Labour Party members who campaigned for the Democrats. So he's not happy with that, and he is going to go ahead and maybe uh, support the conservatives out there. Rishi Sunak's ex leader of conservatives. So conservatives all around the world are happy because for the first time you've got a guy in Elon Musk who's kind of doing what George Soros was doing for the Biden or the liberals. And so now the shoe is on the other foot. Now, for in Europe, you've got Meloni in Italy. I think the two main countries are France and Germany. If France and Germany go rightwards, and remember in France, the right wing parties got a lot of vote share, but they didn't win. So, if that happens, we are going to see a very, very different world. Uh, Probably the end of, uh, the dollar as a reserve currency, a multipolar world probably, because US will not be able to sustain 800 military bases around the world. And I think this year will be the defining year. So let's see how this goes. I will come back and evaluate what Trump has done, say another week or 10 days later. We'll keep a eye on this because, from a geopolitical perspective, whether in India or outside, Trump's decisions are the most important. They're the most far reaching, and they will have a major, major consequence for the world from a geopolitic and an economic standpoint. So, this was Summit from TalksonGround. Hope you enjoyed this. Please share, subscribe, and like this video. And leave your comments. Basis the comments, I will surely come back and address those. So, thank you for watching and have a good day. Bye bye.